There's a good chance you have something on your nightstand right now, or maybe tucked in a drawer or clipped to the side of your bathroom mirror, that promises to lift, firm, or tighten your face while you sleep. It might be a forehead patch, a chin strap, those little V-shaped tapes that you press along your jawline before bed, or perhaps it's the overnight lifting mask in the elegant black pouch that cost you more than your first week's groceries. You might be using it tonight. You might have used it last night and woken up thinking, did that actually do something? Or am I just well rested? That feeling, that genuine uncertainty, is worth paying attention to because it's not you, it's the category. Today we are going to talk about face tape, lifting patches, and overnight contouring products. All of it. What they claim, what the ingredient science actually supports, who's making money on what, and where, if anywhere, there is something genuinely useful in this cabinet. I've been in this industry for a long time. I've watched trends arrive from Korea and from the West. And I can tell you, this particular corner of beauty has some of the widest gaps I know between what's on the front of the package and what's in the formula. So let's go through it carefully. Here's why this category is so hard to navigate. Face tape and overnight lifting patches sit in a regulatory gray zone. In the United States, they are cosmetics, not drugs. That matters more than most people realize. A cosmetic product does not have to prove that it works before it goes on the market. It has to prove it's safe, but safe and effective are two different bars, and only one of them is required. So when a patch says it supports skin firmness or helps contour the V line overnight, that language is chosen with legal precision. Supports, helps, appears to. These are cosmetic claims, and they're written by people who know exactly where the line is. Now, I want to be careful here because Korea gets invoked as a kind of shorthand for the category done properly. And that's not always fair. Korean brands are subject to the same investor pressures and marketing dynamics as Western brands. Many of the Korean conglomerates, Amore Pacific, LGH&H, are enormous publicly traded companies. That doesn't make them bad. It means they are not immune to the same forces. That said, there's a real difference in how certain types of products are formulated and used in Korea. That's worth understanding. Not as Korea does it better, but as a different set of defaults. In Korean skincare philosophy, a patch or mask is typically understood as a delivery mechanism for an active ingredient, not the active ingredient itself. The patch creates occlusion. It holds moisture and actives against the skin. That's a real documented mechanism. The question is always, what is it actually delivering? And does the skin actually absorb it? That question is where most of the products on today's list fall short. One more thing before we start. The V line, or defined jawline, is genuinely aspirational in Korean beauty culture, and that has produced both clever engineering and a lot of products that trade on the aesthetic without the function. I will note both because that's the honest version of this conversation. All right, let's go through the list. Number 8. Basic silicone lifting patches. Generic, white label. Let's start with the most straightforward entry, the simple reusable silicone face patch. You've seen these. Clear or slightly skin toned, shaped like triangles or crescents, meant to be worn while you sleep to train the skin not to crease. Who makes them? Many of these are white label products manufactured in bulk largely out of factories in China and South Korea, then sold under dozens of brand names. When you buy a $12 set on a major retail platform, there's a reasonable chance the same factory produced the $45 set with a different logo. The brand often has no direct relationship with the formulation or manufacturing. What does the research say? Silicone patches work by creating a microclimate of warmth and humidity against the skin. There's reasonable evidence that occlusion, trapping moisture, temporarily plumps the skin, which is why lines look softer after you remove the patch. The effect is real. It is also temporary. The skin is not being retrained. Fine lines caused by repeated muscle movement return when the patch comes off, because the patch doesn't do anything to the underlying muscle or to collagen structure. So, what are you actually paying for? Temporary moisture plumping, and possibly a reduction in how much you scrunch that area of your face during sleep. That second benefit is theoretical, but not unreasonable. Some sleep researchers note that compression sleep lines are distinct from expression lines, and reducing compression during sleep may have some modest long term value. But modest and theoretical is very different from what the marketing implies. Concrete alternative: a well formulated occlusive balm, something with petrolatum, shea, or squalane as the primary ingredient, applied before bed, creates similar occlusion at a fraction of the cost. CeraVe Healing Ointment is about as well evidenced as anything in this space for overnight barrier support. For a Korean option, Pyeongkang Yule's Nutrition Cream is a heavy, occlusive formula that layers beautifully under existing skin. Number 7. Chin straps and jaw wraps. The V-line category. These look more dramatic than the silicone patches. An elastic or bandage style strap that wraps under the chin and over the top of the head, worn for a set number of hours or overnight. The claim is that they physically lift and define the jawline. I want to give you the honest mechanism here, because there is something real and something that gets wildly overstated. What is real? Lymphatic drainage is a genuine physiological process. Fluid can accumulate in facial tissue overnight, particularly if you sleep on your stomach or consume a lot of sodium. A gentle compressive garment may assist fluid movement. You might genuinely see a slightly more defined jawline in the morning. This is not magic. It's the same principle as compression socks reducing ankle swelling. What is overstated? The idea that you are reshaping tissue or training the jawline structure. You are not. Connective tissue and bone structure are not changed by a fabric strap worn while sleeping. Who makes these? The category is crowded with independent brands and white label sellers. But there are also entries from brands like Lanbena and various Korean domestic brands that have produced medical-ish looking versions. Some of these market specifically to women post-procedure as a compression support after thread lifts or filler, which is actually a legitimate, if specific, use case. Those aren't the ones being marketed on beauty platforms to the general audience. Concrete alternative: facial massage, specifically lymphatic drainage techniques, can achieve similar temporary fluid movement effects with no product purchase required. The Kobayashi technique, a Japanese-derived protocol sometimes used in Korean spas, involves very light downward strokes along the neck toward the collarbone. You can learn it in 15 minutes. Free. Permanent skill. Number 6. Hydrogel firming. Sheet masks with no actives. Hydrogel is a legitimate material. It adheres better than a wet sheet mask, releases ingredients more slowly, and creates strong occlusion. None of that is marketing fiction. The question is always, what is it releasing? A large portion of hydrogel masks, including some sold at significant price points, list collagen and hyaluronic acid prominently on the front, then bury the concentrations in a long INCA list where those ingredients appear near the bottom. And here's the thing about topical collagen in a mask. The collagen molecule is generally considered too large to penetrate the skin barrier in its intact form. You are not rebuilding your collagen from a sheet mask. What you may be doing is hydrating the skin's surface, which temporarily makes it look plumper and more even. That's real. It's also what a much cheaper product does. Who makes these? This is where the ownership structure gets interesting. Many mid-range Korean hydrogel masks that you find at cosmetic retailers are manufactured by ODM companies, original design manufacturers, and then licensed to multiple brand names. The same formula may exist under 4 or 5 labels, some Korean, some Western. A brand like Vitamask, based in the UK, sources hydrogel masks produced in Korea and sells them under their own label. That's not necessarily a problem. ODM is standard practice, but it means brand loyalty in this category means very little. Concrete alternative. If you want the occlusion benefit of a hydrogel mask, a thicker layer of a quality moisturizer, followed by a slightly damp cotton compress left on for 10 minutes, achieves similar surface plumping. For an evidence-backed hydrogel mask option, look for formulas that list niacinamide or adenosine in the first half of the INCI list. These are ingredients where the mass delivery mechanism actually has some support, and adenosine in particular has reasonable evidence for temporarily improving the appearance of fine lines. Number 5. Peptide lifting patches, the argireline category. Now we get into ingredients with real research histories and real nuance. Argireline is the trade name for acetyl hexapeptide 3. It's a peptide that was developed with the theoretical mechanism of interfering with the neuromuscular signals that cause repeated muscle contraction, a very modest topical reversible version of what injectable neuromodulators do. The marketing sometimes calls it Botox in a bottle, which is such an egregious overclaim that I hardly know where to start. What does the actual research say? There are some in vitro studies and a limited number of small clinical studies suggesting that argireline may reduce the depth of expression lines with regular use. These studies are often funded by the ingredient manufacturer Lipotech. That doesn't make them false, but it's context worth having. The independent research base is limited, and the concentrations used in studies are rarely disclosed in product formulations. Whether the concentration in any given patch is sufficient to do anything is largely unknown to the consumer. Crucially, argireline is a topical cosmetic ingredient. It does not penetrate the skin the way an injectable does. The mechanism, if it functions at all, is at the skin's surface. Brands using argireline in patches include various Korean and Western indie brands. You'll find it in eye patches, forehead patches, and some jaw area patches. The ingredient itself isn't a problem. The problem is a marketing ecosystem that may reduce the appearance of fine lines in some study participants when formulated at adequate concentration claim, and converts it into erases wrinkles overnight. Concrete alternative. If you want to work with evidence-backed ingredients for the appearance of expression lines, a properly formulated retinoid used consistently over months has the strongest overall evidence base. For those who find retinoids irritating, bakuchiol has a growing body of evidence and is well tolerated. Neither requires a patch format to deliver results. Number 4. Collagen boosting tape with hyaluronic acid infusion. This is a specific subcategory. Tape, adhesive, worn during the day or overnight, that claims not just physical lifting but active ingredient delivery. The idea is that the tape adheres to the skin and its coating infuses hyaluronic acid or collagen boosting actives as it holds the skin in place. Let's separate the two claims. The physical lifting claim. Tape can mechanically lift skin. This is simply mechanics. You adhere one edge, pull the skin upward, adhere the other edge. Under clothing, under hair, this can create a temporary visual effect. That mechanism is honest. It's also entirely cosmetic and entirely temporary. The moment the tape comes off, the skin returns to its natural position. The ingredient delivery claim. This is where I want you to slow down. Adhesive tape is not a transdermal delivery system. The evidence that a hyaluronic acid coating on an adhesive tape is being meaningfully absorbed through the skin during the hours of wear is, to my knowledge, not established. You would need to see clinical data, not ingredient marketing materials, to support this claim. And I have not seen it. Who makes products in this space? Brands like Lysis, sold through major retailers, KT Tapes beauty offshoots, and various Korean brands, including some marketed as medical lifting tape, which is a term designed to imply clinical function without making a regulated medical device claim. Concrete alternative. If you want tape for a specific event or photograph, an honest, mechanical lift, use what works mechanically and don't pay extra for the ingredient coating story. Fashion tape or proper cosmetic lifting tape achieves the same physical effect. Save the ingredient budget for a well-formulated serum that you apply to clean skin, where absorption actually occurs. Number 3. Medical grade microcurrent patches. Here we transition from adhesives into a category that involves a technology claim. Patches that deliver microcurrent to the skin. Microcurrent, very low-level electrical current, does have a legitimate research history in physical therapy and more recently in aesthetics. There's evidence that microcurrent can temporarily improve muscle tone and the appearance of facial contour when delivered at appropriate parameters. Professional microcurrent devices used in clinical settings operate in the 10600 microampere range with specific waveforms. The question is, what a disposable, adhesive patch can actually deliver. Patches in this category typically use a chemical reaction, often between silver and another compound when moistened, to generate a small electrical current. Whether the current generated by these patches reaches the parameters needed to have a measurable effect, and whether that effect reaches deep enough tissue to do what the marketing claims, is not something I can tell you with confidence because I haven't seen the independent data. What I can tell you is this. The word medical grade in cosmetics is not a regulated term. It does not mean that a product has been reviewed by a regulatory body as a medical device. It is marketing language. Brands in this space include NuFace, which makes actual device-based microcurrent tools, as well as companion patches, and a number of Korean brands offering single-use patch formats. NuFace devices themselves have a more substantial evidence base than their patch accessories. The patches are a different proposition. Concrete alternative. If you're interested in microcurrent as a modality, a dedicated device, even an entry-level one, gives you more control over parameters and more evidence behind the delivery mechanism than a single-use patch. A professional facial every few months with a licensed esthetician using clinical equipment is also a more defensible option than any home patch in this category. Number 2. Overnight lifting mask. Sleeping packs with unverified tensioning agents. Sleeping packs, left on overnight masks that don't need to be rinsed, are a genuinely well developed category in Korean skincare, and I want to be precise about what they do well and where the category has been stretched beyond its evidence. A well formulated sleeping pack does several things that are supported by evidence. It creates extended occlusion, allowing the skin to retain moisture during the hours when transepidermal water loss would otherwise occur. It can deliver ingredients that work well in sustained contact, niacinamide, for example, or fermented extracts with antioxidant properties. Lenicia's water sleeping mask is perhaps the category's most well known entry, and its core mechanism, hydration and barrier support overnight, is honest. The problem is that the sleeping pack format has been adopted by a wave of products that add lifting, firming, and contouring to the claims without the formulation to support them. You'll often see ingredients like DMAE, dimethylaminoethanol, listed as the lifting agent. DMAE is interesting because it does appear to cause a measurable tightening effect on skin, but the mechanism is not fully understood, and a study published in the journal Skin Pharmacology and Physiology raised questions about whether the skin stiffening effect might reflect changes in cell shape rather than tissue firming in any beneficial sense. That study was not conclusive, and the ingredient hasn't been banned anywhere as a cosmetic ingredient, but the "we don't fully understand what's happening" flag is genuinely worth noting. Other products in this space list plant extracts with names like hydrolyzed lifting complex or contour peptide blend, terms that often indicate a proprietary trade name ingredient with minimal independent research. Who makes these? This category spans everything from major Korean brands, COSRX, Innisfree, Mediheal, all have sleeping pack lines, to Western luxury brands that have reverse engineered the format and priced it at a significant premium. Drunk Elephant's night creams, for example, sit in this conceptual space and are owned by Shiseido. That's neither good nor bad. Shiseido has significant R&D capacity, but it's useful to know that the indie branding is a positioning choice, not a structural fact. Concrete alternative. Look for a sleeping pack where the first 5 ingredients are doing something recognizable: a humectant, glycerin, hyaluronic acid, an emollient, ceramides, plant oils, and ideally an established active, niacinamide, a fruit ferment with antioxidant research. Cross RX, Ultimate Nourishing Rice Overnight Spa Mask, is a well tolerated option with a sensible formula. Biodance, Biocollagen Real. Deep Mask is another Korean option worth mentioning. It uses a collagen film format with a reasonable ingredient list, though the collagen penetration caveat I mentioned earlier still applies. Number 1. Instant Facelift. Thread Effect Tape Kits with Visible Elastics. And here we are at the top of the list. Not because these products are necessarily dangerous, they generally aren't, but because the gap between claim and reality is the widest, the marketing is the most aggressive, and the price points are often extraordinary. This category includes products with names suggesting a non-surgical lift, instant face lifting kit, or thread lift at home. They typically include thin medical-looking tape strips, elastic cords or bands that attach to the tape, and sometimes hooks or anchors that tuck into the hairline or under clothing. Some are designed to be worn under hair for an event. Others are marketed as overnight treatments. Let me be blunt about the physical mechanism. What these products do is apply tension to the skin's surface using adhesive and elastic. That's it. The skin, which is elastic itself, will stretch slightly in the direction of tension while the tape is applied. Remove the tape, and the skin returns to its baseline. There is no thread. There is no tissue restructuring. The word thread in the marketing is borrowing the clinical legitimacy of actual thread lifts, which are minimally invasive procedures performed by medical professionals. Involve sutures placed below the skin surface and carry their own evidence base and risk profile that has nothing to do with an adhesive kit. Now, who is making money on this? Some of the highest profile products in this space are sold through multi-level or social commerce structures, where the revenue model depends on distributors and influencer networks rather than traditional retail. This matters because the evaluation of whether the product works is happening primarily through testimonials and before-after photographs, not through independent clinical testing. Before and after photographs in this category are particularly susceptible to lighting changes, angle changes, and the temporary plumping effect of adhesive pressure on skin. The brands change frequently. This category has high turnover because the regulatory exposure is limited, the manufacturing barrier is low, and the products can be white labeled at scale. What stays consistent is the marketing architecture. Urgency before after, celebrity or influencer association, and the price point high enough to imply medical legitimacy without triggering the scrutiny of a medical device. There is one legitimate use I will acknowledge. For a specific event, on a day when you want to take a photograph and you want mechanical assistance, this kind of tape can do that. It is the equivalent of shapewear, a temporary physical intervention with a temporary cosmetic result. That is an honest use case. It is not a skincare treatment. It is not a substitute for any actual skin health practice, and it should be priced accordingly, which most of them are not. Concrete alternative. If the underlying concern is visible facial sagging, the interventions with the strongest evidence are consistent use of broad-spectrum SPF. Photoaging is a primary driver of skin laxity, and this is very well established. Regular use of a retinoid over months, adequate sleep, and, if you want a professional modality, radiofrequency treatments or focused ultrasound, therapy and similar, do have more substantial clinical data for tissue-level effects than anything in this product category. Those are not inexpensive, but they are honest about what they're doing. So, you've heard all of that. What does it mean for your actual routine? 4 things. That's all. 1. Check ingredient position, not ingredient presence. When a product claims to work because of a specific active peptide, hyaluronic acid, ferment, whatever, look at where that ingredient appears in the NCI list. Ingredients are listed in descending order of concentration. If the active is in the last quarter of a 30-ingredient list, it's a trace amount. This takes 30 seconds and will save you from the vast majority of overclaim products. 2. Separate mechanical from biological. Ask yourself, is this product claiming to do something physical and temporary, which is honest and may have a real use? Or is it claiming to change my skin's biology? Temporary mechanical effects, occlusion, compression, tension, are legitimate and don't require biological claims to justify them. The moment the marketing language shifts to rebuilds, restructures, or reverses, the evidence bar should go up dramatically in your mind. 3. Learn to pat. This sounds small, but it matters. In Korean skincare practice, products are not rubbed into the skin, they're pressed and patted in. This isn't mysticism, it's about minimizing mechanical pulling on skin that has lost some of its original elasticity. Over years, the habit of pressing rather than dragging makes a real difference. If you use a nighttime product, whatever it is, apply it with your palms pressing gently upward and inward. Take 30 seconds. No product purchase required. 4. Invest the budget in the things with the longest track record. SPF. A retinoid or a well-formulated retinol. Introduced slowly if your skin is sensitive. A genuinely good moisturizer with ceramides and fatty acids that supports your barrier. These are not exciting. They have never gone viral, but the evidence base behind them is decades long and independently replicated, which is more than I can say for any single use lifting patch on the market. Here's what I want you to take away from today. You don't need to throw out everything in your nightstand. You don't need to distrust every product in this category. What you need is a slightly sharper eye for the gap between what a product says and what it is actually formulated to do, and the knowledge that this gap in the face tape and lifting patch category is often very large. You now know what occlusion actually does. You know why collagen on the front of a package doesn't tell you very much. You know that medical grade is a marketing term, that white label manufacturing is the norm rather than the exception, and that the most dressed up product in the category is often doing the most modest thing. That knowledge is yours now. It doesn't expire. It doesn't wash off in the morning. Go check that nightstand. You know what you're looking for. See you next time.